Hello, I'm Bret Moss, and you're watching the defining moment for creating the culture of conscience. Our guest today is Jesus Montenegro. Jesus is an ambassador for peace with the Universal Peace Federation and has 7 years working in management and administration in the newspaper business with the international weekly Spanish-language newspaper Tiempos del Mundo, which is affiliated with the Washington Times. He's worked in newspaper publishing in New York City, Argentina, Uruguay, and Mexico City. Jesus was born and raised in Bogota, Colombia, and studied at Columbia National University. He first came to the United States in 1983. Jesus is married to Keiko Murakami, and together they have a 14-year-old daughter. Jesus Montenegro, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the defining moment. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me, Bret.
It's great to have you here. Thanks for coming. Our topic today is Latino immigration to the United States. To get us started in what I know will be a very insightful interview, I want to ask you to share a defining moment from your own life, which influenced you in becoming who you are today.
Okay, Bret, that was something about 1977, where I was in Italy. I came to Italy to try to rescue my brother, who had joined this so-called new religion group in Italy. I went to Italy because my mother was so concerned about my brother, who was in Italy for the purpose of becoming an architect. And you can understand that for a Latin American family, middle class family, it is hard to sustain a person abroad and pay for tuition and everything.
Especially in a first world country like Italy.
Italy, that's right. So it was a concern of my mother, a legitimate concern of my mother. So I went to try to rescue my brother from that religious association with, somehow we didn't know what kind of group it was. I went to Italy, and as soon as I arrived, my brother invited me for sharing the 3 days actually, seminar in Genoa, in Italy. After the seminar, I was so impressed by what I heard, but I was willing to come back because my life was kind of being at the beginning of having success and having fulfilled my dreams and becoming a person well known and respected among people of my circle. So I decided not to participate in anything related to this group, but they invited me. They insist that they want me to go to movie and have some, relax, some moment of relax. So we went to a church before to pray. When I arrived in the church, I saw, all this church, a church of the 8th century in Genoa, very, typical church of Romanic architecture, very dark. And I saw a picture of the Last Supper in the main altar of the church, where I stand to pray. And I started to kind of dream about something that it was happening around me. And it was at the same time that I was living at the time of Jesus. I was living at exactly the time in which Jesus was going to be crucified.
So you're having, in a sense, a daydream where
right.
You imagined you were there.
That's right.
At the moment Jesus was about to be crucified.
That's right. And then I was, looking at around me, I was looking at people dressed with the dress of the time, like the Jesus time. And I was myself also in that kind of outfit. And people start to scream, "Crucify him, crucify him."
Wow.
But I was the only one who knew around that, that Jesus was not to die in the cross.
Wow.
He don't supposed to die in the cross. He was not guilty of anything. Right. He was accused of crimes that he never commit. So I knew that in my heart, but I was so fearful of these people that was around me, shouting, "Crucify him," and raising their hand. Raising their hand. It was like in a manifestation, a demonstration. We said in English, a demonstration. And a street demonstration, everybody asking to crucify Jesus.
Or like in the movie of Mel Gibson, The Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, like that. And then I felt that I was going to stand for Jesus for a while. But it was too much pressure on me. I was going to be crucified with Jesus at the same time. So I decided no, and started to raise my hand and said, "Crucify him." And then after all these things, I was part of the people. Wow. So I understood from that, daydream, as you call, from that experience.
The kind of vision, essentially,
that's right? That if Jesus would have come today, probably I would say, "Crucify him again." So that experience went deep in my heart, and I say, if I knew that Jesus was going to come, I would stand and try to defend, him, and try to stand for.
So that caused a revolution within your own heart.
That's right. So that's when I decided that I was going to live a different life. From looking to my own, benefit, and or looking into my own growth, and looking into myself. I was going to dedicate my life a little bit more to more public kind of life.
So what did you do?
So I joined the group.
The same group that your brother had joined?
Yeah, that's right. The same.
So you
group.
went to rescue him, and
I went to
rescue. You ended up joining him.
That's right.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay, very interesting testimony. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Whenever anyone considers the standard of living in the United States and compares that or contrasts that with Latin America, the first thing people think of is the huge disparity between the wealth of the United States and the widespread poverty in Latin America. What do you think is the root cause between that huge disparity that exists here in the Americas?
America is known as the land of opportunity, and when you talk about the land of opportunity, you refer to the United States, not to the rest of America. Land of opportunity. The opportunities were given to all North and South America. Those both, continents, if I may say, both they have same opportunities. But those who take the advantage of that opportunity and think in the long term and prepare and lay the foundation for the future generations to live a better life were the winners, in a sense.
Can you explain more about that?
That is the United States. The forefathers who came in the United States at the beginning, they were not coming looking to wealth, only to become rich, like it happened with the Spaniards that came down to South America. That basically were interested in becoming rich and wealth and solve their own problem of hunger, and coming back to their countries with their wealth and build up a good living in their countries. Whereas the ones who came to America, the forefathers of America, they came looking for religious freedom, somewhere where they can worship God freely, without any constraint.
So you see a difference in motivation.
That's right.
Of the early forefathers who came over from Europe.
That's right.
Spanish landing in Latin America, and the Puritans who came from England, essentially.
That's right.
Pilgrim Fathers.
Yeah, there's a a big difference in the motivation of people who came here.
And you think something as simple as that has caused such a dramatic difference in culture?
I believe so, because this is people who thought about the future generations, the people who came. Now the young people of America, they are involved in drugs, in homosexuality, in lifestyle, different lifestyles, and things like drug use, drug abuse, and they forget about those who sacrificed to lay the foundation for the well-being of the country that they are living in right now.
Yes.
Latin America, the Latin Americans, we don't have that kind of foundation. Our forefathers came looking for their own benefit. They wanted to finally come back to their own countries, but I believe that they were trapped into a system or into that finally they couldn't come back to their own countries, and they had to stay and lay their foundation in the countries, but they never thought about future. They never planned long-term planning. They never thought about that what they do now have consequences in 10, 20, 100 years from now.
Okay, good. Very clear. How has immigration to the United States affected family life for Latinos?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because I myself are part of these Latino families who are divided by immigration. In fact, my mother and two of my sisters lived in the United States. My mother is even American citizen. But every time I come to this country and have to go through customs, I have to answer many questions, because I am suspicious. I am Colombian, I don't have a clear purpose. Most of the time, it is not clear for customs that a Colombian of my age have to come here for, this, or for instance, this kind of interview. So I feel like the immigration divided my family, because my mother and my sisters are here. They wanted to live here. They already see the future in this country, but we have to stay outside. We have to stay in our own countries, and with the hope that one day we can reunite as a family. But of course, we have to go before through a lot of red tape, in order to be, prove that you're not becoming a burden. If you come to the United States, you're not becoming a burden to the government of the United States.
So sometimes when we talk about immigration, we as Americans are a little bit disconnected from that very human reality of families which have been separated by the immigration policies.
Yes, especially the young people in America. They don't know what means the sacrifice, or they forget, maybe. They probably forget about the sacrifice that require the building of this nation. And that sacrifice that the forefathers did, they were immigrants in the first place.
Right.
They came here as immigrants.
So it's not so different than the sacrifice that many Latinos make.
That's right.
In risking their lives to cross the border to come
right.
here. So there is a similarity there.
Similarity, yes.
Only the Americans, the young people now, it's 200 years later.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, very interesting. Now, many citizens in the Hispanic community who live here in the United States don't really support reforming immigration laws, which would make it easier for guest workers to come to the United States. Why don't they support those kinds of reforms?
Well, among the Hispanics that live now in the United States, whether they are legal or not legal, there are broadly two types of immigrants, and two types of workers. There are the agriculture, the ones who came for the agricultural work, which mainly come through crossing the border of Mexico, which is the largest border of the United States with any Latin American country, and the only Latin American country actually that has some come on board with the United States, and they come, you know, they are not very well educated. They are not willing to stay here because they don't think they will. They wanted to work during the season, during the working season, to the harvest season, and they wanted to come back every year.
Go back home and then return every
return every year, every year for the working season. Of course, that's one of the things that want to be have to be, you know, officialized. How do you say regularized, implemented? Yes, so that people can come in and out without having to demonstrate that they are not becoming a burden to the United States, so they are not willing to stay here permanently. The other type of immigrants are, you know, more educated, a higher level, you know, maybe from middle class. They are not from the lower classes, you know, poor people, but mostly from middle class. They will fear other immigrants coming because their jobs, you know, are in a risk if someone comes and offers for a lower wage.
So what you're saying is that the Hispanics that have already assimilated or migrated here, they kind of adopt the same mindset that Americans do.
That's right.
Which is the more that come, that they threaten my job security.
That's right.
So the same kind of mentality exists.
That's right.
Even though it's among their own people.
Yeah, there's a competency.
There's something ironic about that.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Okay, good. Now the construction of the wall dividing the U.S. and Mexico the construction of that wall has been approved by the Congress and signed by the President. Do you see that wall as being an effective first step in curbing illegal immigration from Mexico to the United States?
Historically, walls have not been served the purpose of, you know, that they were intended for in the beginning, you know. If you visit the Berlin Wall, if you visit the China Wall, all these walls were eventually taken by, you know, people who migrate from one place to another, looking for alternative ways to cross over. So I don't think that the wall will change the immigration flow, the illegal immigration flow. In other words, the purpose of if it is for security purposes and for stopping illegal immigrants coming to the United States, I don't think that will help. You know, they will find, you know, ways to cross over, to come here, because there is always a job waiting on the other side. There's a better wage. You know, when you look at a $10 wage for a monthly wage for Mexican, the South Mexican immigrant or agriculture, $10 monthly wage.
Right.
Whereas here in the United States, you can make the $10 in an hour.
Right.
So who wants to stay?
So people become very creative.
Yes, that's right.
In finding the way to get here.
Yeah.
So the wall may or may not help in curbing that.
Yeah, and you know, one example of you know, how these kind of measures are not effective is the fight on drugs. Actually, you know, United States tried to you know, stop the production of drugs down in Latin America, especially in Colombia and in Mexico. You know, but as long as there are someone who wants to pay for the drug, to consume the drug, there was always a supplier, and that's the history of the, you know. Now Colombia is exporting more drugs than they used to export at the beginning of the program of Colombia. You know, the Plan Colombia is called. You know, that they implemented. The United States implemented a lot of help, military.
So the demand has gone up then.
Yeah, that's right.
And
because it's more difficult now to bring the drugs into the United States, so now the price has gone up. Probably better price or better profits into the market, you know.
Which makes it more attractive for people to get into the business. Interesting. In many ways, immigration and the millions of dollars, I should say in the case of Mexico, billions of dollars, which immigrants send to their families in their country of origin, has become a powerful form of informal foreign aid, we could say. If illegal immigration to the United States is greatly reduced, how significantly do you see that impacting the Mexican economy?
Well, the economists in Mexico did an analysis recently about, the remesas, which is the money that they send from the United States to...
That's the Spanish word.
The Spanish word for wire transfers,
okay.
yes, from the United States to the Latino families. In average, a family received, every immigrant sends about $300 monthly. And the fact that they increased in the 2004, it was $7 billion. In the 2005, it was $16 billion. 16 billion
last year.
Yeah, almost double. And they have analyzed the reason why this increasement because also the amount of money that they have to pay for the wire, it was reduced, drastically reduced, increasing the amount of money that every family or every person, every immigrant...
People had more incentive to send money because more of it would arrive.
That's right. And
that doubled the amount of money that was sent out.
That's right.
That's pretty interesting.
That's right. So it wouldn't stop, people from sending the money. But coming back to the question is, if it has an impact on the economy of Mexico, which has 2 points of the gross national product, 2.5% of the gross national product is the money coming from the wire transfers from the United States. So in a sense, that can be paid that can be considered like a payment or as a foreign aid, as you call, as a so-called informal foreign aid, yes. I don't think that it will be a major impact in the Mexican economy, in the construction, in terms of wire transfers to the Mexico and other countries.
They'll find a way, basically.
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, as you know, transnational companies often go into poverty-stricken, underdeveloped countries like Mexico and often act in self-interest to satisfy the stockholders of these multinational corporations, often at the peril of the local economy where they go. Now, we as Americans sometimes are ignorant or blind to the way transnational corporations operate outside of their home country. Do you think that this kind of informal aid that we talked about, in a sense, helps to compensate for some of these damaging behaviors that American corporations sometimes engage in foreign countries like Mexico? Do you think that helps compensate for the negative stereotypes that Mexicans have toward American capitalism?
Yeah, I think that the great majority of Americans don't know about the work of the big corporations down there. And they don't really know about the exploitation that they have done in the past. Not necessarily that this is the case now at this time, where the technology, the communications are making for them more difficult to keep things the way they run before. So, in a sense, I believe that now, allowing this kind of remesas, this kind of money to be wired to the families in Mexico particularly, is like a paying back, in a sense, what they have taken in the past, take it for granted in the past. Not only that cheap labor, maquila, what they call, and other means and other ways that foment the corruption, that in these countries, like particularly in Mexico, big corporations, there's always behind the big scandals, there's a very interesting book of Andres Oppenheimer, I think you have heard, about the corruption in Latin America. And precisely he accused and he pointed out these big corporations behind the big scandals, IBM in South America, in Argentina, and well, there's countless.
So sometimes the behavior of these corporations, in a way, foment corruption.
That's right. That's right. And in a sense, as you mentioned, allowing this money to be wired back is a way to compensate, even though it's not a, same, how do you say, in the same
It's
footing.
not a direct compensation.
That's right.
It's not an indirect, informal way.
That's right.
It helps to mitigate those
yes,
consequences.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, very good. America's image around the world has suffered greatly since the start of the Iraq War. And now in Latin America, there's a new leftist resurgence taking place, which is supported by leaders such as Fidel Castro and, of course, Hugo Chavez. Do you feel that by putting too many limits on immigration and integration, America may end up increasing the social pressures down in Latin America? In that way, kind of unwittingly create the potential for dangerous instability and social unrest, which could, in a way, affect the quality of life here in America? Do you think that kind of danger exists?
It happened already in the past. I mean, Nicaragua was one of the examples. Salvador was another example of having America to take to pay the price of having fomented some kind of unrest in these countries. And that is, something that America has to consider, and Americans has to consider the responsibility behind these movements that they foment sometimes in Latin America, and that they, after 10 years, after 20 years, they have to pay the consequence by receiving all these illegal immigrants or legal immigrants for a period of time, but they, after some period of time, they cannot get rid of, and send them back, like the Salvadorians are now in the Washington area, living in the Washington area,
So sometimes if we approach immigration by just looking at the border and the flow of immigrants over the border or the amount of money that's sent back to a country, if we just look at that without looking at the whole picture of the stability of Latin America in general, it might later come back and we'll have to pay a price for it, maybe even a bigger price than what we saved by sealing the border.
The idea of President Kennedy, it was a great idea of Alianza para el Progreso, Alliance for Progress. But after he died, it was not advanced. And that's a pity, because I think the idea is there. I mean, there's people that had the idea of developing Latin America is the best thing that they can do for securing.
Another example is the free trade zone of the Americas, which is proposed, which has not yet been ratified. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's another example of a bold vision for creating opportunities.
Opportunities, exactly.
Mutual opportunities for North Americans and Latin Americans.
Latin Americans, that's right.
Okay, well, Jesus, it's been very interesting to hear you share with us your insights about the Latino immigration in the United States. Thank you very much for being our guest today.
Thank you for inviting me.
I really appreciate you coming. Thank you so much. You've been watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. You can find us on the internet at www.definingmoment.tv. Thanks for watching and have a great day.